Welcome back. It's your host with the most motos, Nate Jennings from Moto Planet Handlebars. We're here at Frontline Eurosports today with the general manager, Mr. Chip Huff. He's got some bikes for us.
Yeah, so today I thought we could talk about the differences in instrumentation between the Triumphs, the BMWs, and the Ducatis. The Triumph has a brand new instrumentation system this year with the new GT, the Rally Pro, all of them. The BMWs and the Ducatis, they've been out for a couple years, but it's pretty interesting how advanced these things are getting. Nice.
So we'll get a little bit closer look up with the new Triumph Tiger 900 GT behind us, the BMW R1250GS with the shift cam and the HP package here, and the Ducati Multistrada1260S. Let's get it done. We're going to start our videos out with the Ducati Multistrada1260S. And with this particular motorcycle, we have a keyless ride system. There's no key. It utilizes a key fob. And we can use that just to access our fuel. To start the motorcycle, we have two buttons, a right start button and our central located button. We can give it a twist like that, and that'll turn the motorcycle on and off. It also utilizes those two switches for our steering column lock. Starting on the right hand side, we're going to have our heated grip button. We're going to have our run cycle switch that conceals our start button. We also have our start button. Then to the left side of the motorcycle, we come to the front with our high beam, constant, and flash. Hazard lights, auxiliary, our cruise control settings, mode selection, as well as going through our settings menu, and our turn signals and horn. As we go into our mode selection, that is really the bread and butter of what we got here. Let's show you what we have on our displays first. We're going to have our rev lights at the top. We have turn signals top right and top left. We have a low fuel light. We have our high beam we demonstrated, our cruise control being on or off, and a neutral light at the bottom. Flashing here is indicators that we're testing our ABS and traction control, as well as our engine warning light. We have our oil light, and then you'll have a few extra warning lights on the far right side. Inside the instrumentation, we show that this is a Bluetooth ready motorcycle. We have a bar graph for our tachometer. In this particular menu setting, as I show you more, we'll be able to modify this. We have our auxiliary lights, timepiece, side stand warning. We have our speed gear indicator on the far right. We have Ducati quick shift settings, Ducati traction control settings, ABS settings, and Ducati wheelie control settings for this particular mode, which is located at the very bottom. It also demonstrates our temperature and what we have for our suspension settings. We obviously have fuel, mileage, and our settings menu that allows this left mode button to go through last calls, player for Bluetooth, ambient air temperature, fuel consumptions, trips, speed averages, trip times, range, and then our settings menu. Settings menu is accessible by hitting the in portion of the mode button, and we're going to go into riding mode first. Tapping into the riding mode, we have sport, touring, urban, and enduro. We can go in and modulate these. We'll start with sport. We can go in and play with the engine settings. So we have high, medium, and low. Low is giving you that reduced power with smooth delivery, and medium is smooth delivery with full power, and high, there's your dynamic and full power. We're going to back out of that with the mode button, go down to our Ducati traction control, and we have several settings: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 different levels of Ducati traction control. And you can see the difference between your performance and safety levels on the bar across the bottom, and if it's better suited for wet road or off-road riding conditions. Very simple to read and understand and modulate. You can turn it all the way off, or we're going to go back and keep this in a safe riding mode. We have ABS. ABS has cornering ABS on the 1260, so we have level 1 giving us front only ABS for off-road and high performance. We have level 2 giving us the cornering for road and performance, and 3 gives us the safe, stable road with the cornering ABS front and rear. Back from that, Ducati wheelie control. Well, we better put that back on a little bit. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different settings, and you're watching this bar graph go across, demonstrating also what kind of action you're going to be receiving from that setting. Ducati Quick Shift is going to give us clutchless shift up and down, or we can turn it off. Don't know why, but we'll leave it there. Suspension, we can modulate the front and the rear. With the front, we have hardest, harder, medium, softer, softest. And then in the rear, we're going to have our hardest, harder, medium, softer, and softest settings for our compression and rebound. Those are our damping settings. Let's get into our load. That is going to be our preload. We're going to have a single helmet designating a single rider, single with luggage, 2 up, 2 with gear. Now they have the most settings out of any of these guys when it comes to direct settings. We also have a default, and we go back. We have the rest of these guys in there with touring mode, giving us all the same options. Urban and Enduro. We can default to all, which would probably be a smart thing to do. If anybody's made any modulations and they don't remember that, and they don't remember to look down at their bottom switches for the Ducati Quick Shift, Ducati Traction Control, Ducati Wheelie Control, and ABS. So we're going to go back into that settings menu and now go down into info mode, which is just giving us what our display is going to look like. We had full display up. Now we have track display. Let's see what track display looks like. Going into a very similar looking display. Well, let's try this. Settings menu and info mode to city. And once we get it to city, we see a major change. Larger timepiece, larger speedometer, and gear indicator being our primary visuals. As we go back into our settings menu, we can go back into info mode, and hopefully going through this multiple times will help you give you the repetition you need to remember this for yourself. Let's go back one more time, and bada bing bada boom, another extremely similar instrumentation. So the city is really the big dog for us. Let's get into pin code resetting, lap timers and setting that up and checking our lap data, which we don't have any on this particular machine right now. Backlighting, we have auto or we have night and day options. We'll leave that in auto. Date and clock timepiece setups, units of measurements, how we want our speed, temperature and consumptions done. We want it miles per gallon. You know how this works. This is very typical. It's just very easy to read through the Ducati. And with this left modulation, it's just so simple to find what you're looking for with a simple up and down and right push of the button. We have our service reminders, tire calibration. We have our load mode, which now we go in there for our touring mode and make that change for our same single with gear, 2 up, 2 with gear. Bluetooth allows us for pairing and finding all of our associated devices. Uh-oh, Michael's been in here playing. That's pretty cool. Then we go to our turn indicators and make them automatic or manual. And our information, which is our battery and tachometer. Going back out of there, we have now gone through most of our options for the Ducati Multistrada1260S. We're going to move on next to the Triumph Tiger 900. Moving forward, this is our 2020 Triumph Tiger 900 GT. Now I know the other machine was a 1260 and a 1250. They're in the heavyweight and this is the middleweight class, but we're looking at instrumentation comparisons. This might be the statement they say, save the best for last, but I am too impatient to do that. As we twist the key there, still a conventional key to start the motorcycle with a twist to the right. We cue up our instrumentation. Triumph's proud to share their name for a hot second, then let you know what you're riding, saying, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Look at my extremely large, beautiful instrumentation with tons of color. What we've got going on the right-hand side is our hazard lights. We have our run cycle switch. Start button integrated into that one switch, which is something I really do like. We have our home button on the bottom. We're going to jump into that in a hot second. On the left-hand side, we're going to have our high beam on and off with a trigger switch. We have our auxiliary lights, as well as our fog light warning that they're not on right now. That's showing up because this particular model is not outfitted with them yet. We do have our heated seats, you can see right there. We also are looking at heated grips built into the left handlebar grip. One of my very favorite motorcycle features out of all 15 lines I've ever sold in the last 19 years. That is an amazing little cool feature to keep your hands on the controls and easy accessibility. We have our cruise control set for ourselves right here. And you can see now we've activated it and tap it again. We will start it when the bike is running. We have our mode selection down below that, turn signals, horn, and our joystick. So we're going to start with simple things like ride mode selection. We can hit our ride mode right here, and it's going to have the off-road mode, and I use my toggle switch to go up to sport, road, rain. Let's change it to rain, and we'll see the change happening down here on the bottom and what selections we have going for ourselves. That's important as we go into the full home menu. If we change to rain, it's going to give us our rain indicator down on the bottom right hand side. We do have the availability of just scrolling through the tray menu. Up at the top you see the tachometer. We're going to see a left and right arrow. That's to indicate our joystick is going to allow us to go left or right. If we go right, we go to our trip 1, which gives us distance, average speed, and duration. Our fuel status with current, range, and average. Our service reminders. Contrast, high, low, or auto. We have our color for our instrumentation. You'll see what selections you're making over on the far right there with yellows and greens and whites. We'll go back to our favorite blue. We're going to have different styles for this instrumentation. This has always been one of their high points since they've come out with TFTs. So you have style 1. Across the top, you're going to see style 2, 3, and 4 options available. Look at the differences in your fuel, temperature, tachometer, speedometer. Beautiful, we like this. Let's go to style 2. So we have style 2 now, which gives us just a little more top space. We've got style 3, which is decreasing that side a little bit. Style 4, moving it all to the right hand side. We just select style 4, go over with our right joystick and go back to our tachometer. So the most used button will be the home button when you're making major modifications to the motorcycle with your initial purchase. With the home button on the right hand side, we click that once, and this is why Triumph is the paramount in TFT technology for motorcycle industry. The joystick makes this extremely easy to go through because it's just dummy proof. We have ride modes, we go to the right and we go into ride modes. We've got rain mode at the top, road goes down, sport we go down, off-road, we want to select off-road, we go right, and we have our ABS, we go right. We see we have off-road ABS. We can go back and go right down to our map, select our map, go back to our traction control, select our traction control. You can see how easy it is with just left, up and down joystick motions. And this is just amazingly simple settings. Reset to all defaults, concern. All right, now to go back up to our bike setup, we're gonna have our Triumph Shift Assist. We can go in and enable or disable that. Awesome feature, always keep that bad boy on. We got our traction control enabled and disabled. That's our hard override, and we have our service reminders visual for us. Continue back, go to our trip setup, trip 1, trip 2 display setup. We have our color that we selected earlier in our quick menu. That's part of our visible tray we'll show you in a second. High contrast, low contrast, visible trays. Visible trays is where we can take off or on different things in that top left menu we showed you at the beginning. And if we don't want the tachometer there, you know, we can just select with the pushing in of the button when we're on that model. I had them all selected so that I could show you all available options earlier. We're gonna go back. We've got our gear shift indicator, we got running, user defined, disabled. We have our language set up. This is so straightforward. Units of measurement, clock, date, and we start over. That's this motorcycle in a nutshell. This was a little bit quicker run through because I think it was a more simplistic system and it doesn't have nearly as many options as we did with the Ducati 1260. There are things that we're gonna miss, like the suspension. We have conventional adjustable suspension on this one. That one we've got to go in and play with all the suspension modes with the preload and compression and rebound, all that good stuff. So let's go to the most advanced with the most amount of options, the Ducati Multistrada 1260, to the Tiger 900 with the highest level of visibility and simplicity, and move on to BMW R1250GS with the shift cam. So that might be our middle of the road bike. Let's go there next. Last but not least, we're on our 2019 BMW R1250GS HP, the 1250 shift cam. So with their electronics packages, it's actually the same in the R1250, and they transited to the R1250GS when they did that recently. But this is a keyless ride system as well. With that electronics package, you do get 2 additional additives that you're not seeing with Triumph's heavyweight bikes or the Ducati Multistrada. Your key is going to give you the accessibility to lock and navigation system on that is integrated into your motorcycle, as well as keyless fuel entry, which I know you couldn't see that. But we're going to stage our key right here, and we're going to hit our central button, which also works our steering column lock. If we turn our handlebars full left, hold the center button, that would do our steering column lock. Centralize it again, hit your center button, and watch it queue up with the BMW GS. And this is all an ABS Pro featured motorcycle as well. Instrumentation, nice, simple, and easy. BMW says this is the right way to do it. This is what we're going to do for you. And they do that for more than just the instrumentation. They're going to do that in ride mode, we'll get into in a second here as well. We have temperature, tachometer. No, it does not redline at 5,500 RPMs. This is giving you a visual indicator of where the bike is in its warm-up stages, telling you, hey, we need to not rev the bike over 55 right now because we haven't got our engine temperature up to the proper temperatures. You'll see that slide on back as you warm up the motorcycle. We're going to have up here is a visible tray for us. We do have our Pro plug-in, that's an indicator for that. That's our ride mode selection. We have a big gear indicator, big speedometer, nice timepiece. And what we got to make remembrance of is this little guy at the bottom and what it looks like, correlating to the menu button over here. Line, down dip, line, up dip, line. Remember that for the future. We're going to see things flashing on our side, which is our ABS and our traction control warning lights. Those will be on and off due to what settings we're in. Starting on the far right side, heated grips, you got level 2, level 1, and off. Just a simple push of the buttons, nothing complicated there. We have mode selection. Mode is going to give us rain, road, dynamic pro, and enduro pro. You also have dynamic and enduro, but with the plug-in, you're getting those two options. All you have to do is select what you want, let it sit, and it'll change for you. Now, we're not going in there and doing a lot of modifications to the rain mode, to the road mode, or anything to that nature, unless it's a pro mode, because BMW says, I have found you the perfect settings, and you will run ABS this way, traction control this way, and all that good jazz. So it makes it a little bit more of a simplistic system for us. We don't have to think a lot. We just trust the engineers. We have our run cycle and our start switch, like Triumph did, that is integrated into one nice switch for us. As we go across the left-hand side of the handlebars, starting at the top, we have our constant high beam, and we have our trigger for intermittent high beam with the LED headlight system you can see there. We have our cruise control selection and set and resume. Pretty straightforward, easy to get to. It's been a very standard model across all their units, so it's easy if you've owned a BMW before, you're not transitioning any steps. We're going to have our ABS and traction control. Nothing is running right now, we're just having the warning lights come up. We could go in there and override those two systems for ourselves. We also have on the lower selection of that button, road dynamic damping values, and then we can go up and set our preload to auto or manual over on the far right side, but you can't do that with the hold of the button unless the engine is on. So I'm not going to do that for audio purposes at this point in time. We'll finish the demonstration. We have our left and right turn signals. You can see where those are at visually on the instrumentation, and we have our horn button at the bottom. A lot of people call this a wonder wheel. Truly, it's a multi-function controller. I like the multi-function controller, but you are bringing yourself into an element of two buttons. With the Ducati, notice we had a single button up and down selection. With the Triumph, we had a joystick up and down with a center push. Now with the BMW, we're going to have an up and down menu selection with a multi-function controller that goes up and down and left and right, kind of adding a different element to it. What we're going to use this menu button for with the line, uptick line, we're going to see that moving our visible tray. So we'll hit that, and we have our little brake warning too. We have our average speed, we have our tire pressure warning system, our RDC, range on fuel tank, we have our fuel bars, we have our total odometer, trip 1, trip 2, and getting back to our fuel settings. So those are all of the options available on the visible tray, and we're going to be able to modify that like we showed you in the Triumph Tiger 900 earlier. But to get to that, we first need to go to our line, downtick line, and the menu selection. That takes into this beautiful menu display where, again, you see we have a line, downtick line. That would be another slap on the old menu button, or we have an over arrow to use our joystick. So this is where we have the option of using two different buttons in this particular menu, adding a little bit more, but it's still pretty stinking simplistic. I mean, we go left or right. If it's illuminated, we have it connected to the motorcycle. We don't have our navigation or phone or anything hooked up right now. So let's go into my vehicle, which would be a downward thrust. And in my vehicle, we have our temperatures and oils and tire pressures. We have our voltage. We have our range on tank. We can go over, as you'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different bars. First bar illuminated, second bar illuminated. Onboard computer 1, journey, brake, current, total mileage, range, average speed, average consumption. Same settings on board computer 2. And then we get into our tire pressure menu. I do like the BMW in the middle. That 1200 GS, it looks beautiful on that TFT. Service requirements, and then we can go quickly back out of that with an up button, go over through our navigation, media, and telephone, and go to our settings where we'll be able to connect those devices. We have vehicle settings first. We go over with our multi-function controller, go to our RDC, that's our tire pressure monitoring system. We can turn that on and off. Hill start, control pro, we have manual or auto, and we push over to select auto or manual. I'm gonna leave it on manual because some people get messed up on that. We can turn it off altogether. We can go back just like the joystick on the Triumph to go back on the menus. Then we have Enduro Pro riding mode and dynamic. They're gonna give us options to change the pro modes. Engine, we're gonna have our road, rain, and dynamic. If we want that, we push over and hit OK. And we go back out, and now we have a dynamic engine setting for Enduro. We have Enduro Pro, or we have Enduro modes. We'll go back to our Enduro Pro. And for ABS, we can take it from Enduro Pro and go back to just Enduro and back our menu out. And now you see we have changed to Enduro ABS, Enduro Pro traction control, and dynamic engine. Reset. Reset now. Go in and select those. We went back to our default settings. Let's get back out of this beast and go down to our system settings. System settings will give us access to our date, time, units of measurement, our language preferences, connections, here we go, mobile device, riders' helmets, delete connection options. We get into our display. We have our brightness, which is another multi-function controller roll of the switch here to go to our different percentage. We're at 60, we hit OK, we go back. Status line content. I gave you a lot of information. I have not sold many GS customers one with a full menu display open. So we like to go in there and find what we want. Fuel tank level. I mean, we kind of want that. And if it has a check mark, that means it's on the visible tray now. And we have an indicator if it wants to be turned off. It doesn't mean that it is off. Some people get confused between the check mark or the off. That means I want to select it off. We want fuel tank, we want odometer. We don't need 2 trip meters. We don't need 2 consumption averages. I don't care how long I ride. I want to ride all day long and I don't take breaks. But I do like to have an average speed and definitely want my tire pressure monitoring system. So we can go, oh, I didn't show you that because I don't think you need to. Speed limit info, turn that off. Just kidding. We've got our information, licenses and software, tidbits of stuff you'll never really want to get into. And now we're going to go back and check what we did with our visible tray. We can always go quickly jumping back with our uptick menu. That doesn't give you a visual indicator, that's just a trick of the trade. So we go into this beast now with our uptick, fuel, average speed, tire pressure monitoring system, range on tank, fuel bar, odometer, trip 1, average. Keeping it simple. We cycle through that a lot quicker, so if there's just certain pieces of information you like a fuel bar, range on tank, and average fuel, you're just using that for fuel on that bar up top, rock and roll with it. We just take it down to that in the visible tray. And this motorcycle was that easy to go through. It has more options. It does have the electronic suspension options that we could go through and modulate slightly in the engine and traction control. But BMW is particular about their settings, and they've developed this motorcycle with rider preferences for rain, road, and dynamic that you don't need to modulate. The suspension is auto adjusting for you. It's going to sense your ride height on this motorcycle and make calibrations to that for you while you're riding. And that concludes our overview of the 3 menu options between the Ducati 1260 Multistrada, the Tiger 900 GT, which is the new instrumentation, and the BMW R1250GS. So thanks for watching us here at Frontline Eurosports. Your host for the most motos, Nate Jennings from Moto Planet Handlebars. Checking out till next time.